Welcome to the Layman Seminary. My wife and I are continuing this series on My Wife Chart Scripture. Janet, is there anything you want to say to people as they're coming up? Hello, Brother
Oh,
Jerry.
yeah. Hi, Brother Jerry. May all your days or nights are good. And hi, everyone. Please be with me again for this event in my life. event in my life. Yeah.
Uh,
And I hope we can learn something. Thank
amen.
you.
Free grace notes. Taylor, he'll be here in about an hour, I think. So,
Mm.
Sawako, will you pray us in, please?
Yes. Father God, thank you once again, Lord, for giving this opportunity, especially for me, um, so that we can learn more and understand more from your words. Lord God, guide the audience that they may, open up to be teachable or to learn something, oh dear God. Give us wisdom and understanding while we are doing this. Thank you so much. And all this, I thank you and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay,
Hi,
Janet.
Gulf Side Ministries.
Hey, Chris.
Chris.
Yeah, that's Chris Morrison that debates on SFT's channel. He was
Oh,
on the board of the Grace Zone app, but now it's a website. I think they have it as a website.
oh, okay, okay.
And
Brother
Chris,
Jerry and Gulf Side.
you're welcome to come in if you want. I can send you the link. We're just right now.
Already, already.
Uh,
Yeah,
well,
sure.
what we're doing right now is let me make sure I'm not sharing
Yeah,
my
we
screen
need to have also recap those who were not yesterday. I
here.
mean, not what's the video yet. So
Yeah,
yesterday we tackled the word Gehenna and all of those things.
right. All
And
of those things.
yeah, and now I don't know. I
What
just need to follow what the layman seminary want me to do or want me to learn.
So, what we've been doing is I got a list of passages that have been brought up in my debates, either by me or others, that have been significant in various debates that I've had. And I'm just going through restudying them in preparation for my debate on the 19th with Andrew Griffin. Um, so, the one that we're on is Matthew 10:28 and 39, dealing with the soul and the body. And so that led us to get into the discussion of Gehenna. And so what we're doing is we're walking through what Dillo says about Gehenna here. And so go ahead, Janet, start reading, and we'll just see how things go.
Okay, Lord get me. Subsequent to the compilation of these uh, Tantanitic materials and the Talmud, c. AD 400 to 600, commentaries of various books of the Bible were collected. These are called midrashim, plural of midrash, commentary. Plural of midrash, commentary. The use of these materials to establish anything regarding the belief of first century Palestinian Judaism is highly questionable. We already read this, I think.
Yeah, but it's part of the section where we left off. So go.
Oh, okay. These texts do not represent Jewish orthodoxy in the first few centuries. There were various Judaisms, including that of the diaspora. Only centuries later did the Palestinian rabbinate put its stamp on the popular Judaism of Palestine, the Judaism practiced by ordinary Jews. Alexander points out it would be wrong to assume that Tannaitic literature reflects the belief or practices of either of these non-rabbinic groups. Flusser agrees. The latter day Judaism as well as Christianity did not involve from the religion of Israel in the Old Testament, but from the Jewish religiosity that flourished during the intertestamental period. This type of religiosity is no longer identical with the creed reflected in the Old Testament. Yet the ordinary Jews were the target of much of Jesus' ministry. While Christianity certainly did not involve from intertestamental
Evolve,
Judaism,
evolve.
I'm sorry, did not evolve from intertestamental Judaism. It was revealed through Christ and his apostles. As David Flusser says, latter day Judaism did. As a result, the only record we have of Gehenna in this period is found in five questionable analogies from the Mishnah. Here they are. The disciple of Balaam, and the wicked inherit Gehenna and go down to the pit of destruction, as it is said, but you, O Lord, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloodthirsty and deceitful men shall not live out half their days. What's that? What's M? M about 5.19 G.
Mishnah Abbott 5 here. Let's see if I got Mishnah 4th division Perike Abbott.
About, oh,
It's in News Near the Mishnah New Translation. Let's see. I don't have that one in Logos, but let's see if I can find it. Maybe in the world.
oh, here we are again, searching, searching to find out where.
Mhm.
So studying the Bible is not just reading it. Just needed including research.
Oh, I do have it. A Mishnah New Translation.
Anchor Yeltindel. I was that Anchor.
Hold on. Okay, yeah, I've been here before. You see that?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the Mishnah Abbott 519G. So that's 4-1. So now we need to go to 5. 9,
5G.
5-9. We got 5-9G. I don't see 519. 519G.
5.
The disciple of Balaam. All right, so let me just type in the word Balaam.
Balaam.
Did I spell it right?
Yeah, but Baal.
Hold on. Bala. No.
Baalam. Baalam.
I got it. Asako. Just hold on.
Balaam.
All right. So let's see. The disciples of Balaam and the wicked inherit Gehenna. All right.
The disciples Balaam wicked inherited Gehenna and go down to the pit of destruction.
That's it right there. Yeah, that's the difference. It says, see right here, Empiric K, Abbott 519D. We want G, A, B, C, D, E.
There's a G there. How about that? The disciples of Balaam, the wicked.
It's this one. It's this one.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
Well,
Oh, in Psalms 55:24.
Dr. Helms, he said, I have two questions. As you know, I am Lordship Salvation. Since I am not on the War on Free Grace, why is this war going on? How widespread is it? Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. There's well, first off, essentially the thing to understand is that your Lordship Salvation. And whenever Lordship Salvation became an issue. Let's just say that, whether you want to start with Stott or MacArthur, uh, uh, basically Hodges and Ryrie and others, led the way in dealing with those issues. Early on, everybody was united against Lordship Salvation, but basically, you come to find out that they have different views about free grace. So you got the GS and you got the FGA, those two organizations. So this is basically what is called, the pejorative term is crossless gospel, and the other pejorative term for the other position, some would say, is promiseless gospel. And essentially, you have differences about whether a person has to believe in God to be saved. You have differences about the content and those issues. Um, let's see what else. Basically, in addition to that, there's been some YouTubers that have taken free grace and modified it and make their own version of free grace, or they've been flying underneath the flag of free grace, but they are inconsistent. And like, they're basically, some of them are saying you got to persevere, continue to believe in free grace, or it shows you were never really saved, and so that's just like, that's the same stuff we've been dealing with it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Dr. Helms, Chris Morrison can speak to the issue, and he's been on here before talking about it, but he's definitely one to connect with. Let's see. Rekindled on YouTube in the past year or two. Yeah, it's definitely been rekindled in that sense, because of high priority, not high priority, high profile YouTubers coming to Christ supposedly and being free grace, or going away from it, launching out against free grace, being Young Don Reborn, one of them, and the other one being Gideon. And so we're talking about generations of people that they've had influence over that are now either confused about free grace, or they hate it and don't even know why, because of a character, and so on like that. No, we handle our debate, our war in the debate ring, So yeah, you're right. You're not in the free grace war. So yeah. Okay. So
Brother Jerry said, good explanation. Thank you, Brother Jerry.
yeah. All right. Let's see. Bloodthirsty, deceitful men should not live out half their days. Okay. So we got that statement. And Janet was able to find it faster than me. So congratulations, Janet. You can search the Mishnah faster than me. All right. No one knows free grace better than me. I don't know. I might. I'm still learning every day. I'm still trying to figure things out. Like, recently, I've been dealing with the different views of the atonement. And there's other things like that. So there's definitely more people that are more qualified. But the cool thing is, I interact with everybody that I can, and that's reachable, either through their material or something like that. So I don't have allegiance to anyone, or to a particular position. I'm just in the search for truth. I mean, of course, everybody claims that, but I do try to navigate the camp, the free grace camp. And I see the different tribes not as a bad thing, but as an asset, because they have multiple working models, explanations of things. Okay, go ahead, Janet.
Okay.
Remove Dr. Helms's comment so that we can see the rest of it.
In this passage, the Mishnah equates the valley of Hinnom with the pit of destruction in Psalm 55:23, a reference to physical destruction by premature death, not not eternal damnation. It can easily be understood to mean that the bold. Are you laughing?
No.
Oh,
If,
I heard like
if I'm laughing, you'll hear me laugh, Janet.
I heard something. I thought anyway.
You're
It can
laughing.
yeah, now I can easily be understood to mean that the bold face faced facet face. What's
Faced.
that?
Bold face, you're right.
Bold faced, shameless, mean. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, guys. I can easily be understood to mean that the bold faced, shameless man faces shame and a premature death. In fact, that is exactly what the verse says. They shall not live out half their days. Amot? Amot. Anyway,
About.
about. If one chooses to see eternal damnation in this Mishnaic passage, the following train of logic must be presupposed. 1. Psalm 55:23 speaks of physical death of David's enemies. 2. The Mishnah changed the meaning from physical death to eternal damnation. Oh, so it's Mishnah's fault now.
Yeah.
Third, the word used for eternal damnation is Gehenna. Fourth, therefore, Gehenna in first century Palestine meant eternal damnation. Oh, here I am again. Therefore, five, therefore, even though his own Bible understood pit of destruction as temporal death, Jesus preferred the meaning of the uh, Sidimpig, Sidipigrapa. And
Yeah.
second citation we
And
read.
and this is a little sarcastic because he Jesus didn't really prefer that. But anyway,
Oh.
okay, go ahead.
In second citation we read, he would say, the shameless go to Gehenna, and the different reserve and reserve, unassertive, reserve, unassertive.
This is not different. This is diffident.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You have a good eyes, and I don't. He would say the shameless go to Gehenna, and the diffident to the Garden of Eden.
Right.
The theme in the Targums is that Gehenna was created during the creation week and was the place of eternal damnation, and the Garden of Eden was created for the just. What he means by this? The Targum A theme in the Targum is that Gehenna was created during the creation week, was the place of eternal damnation, and the Garden of Eden was created for the just. What that means, Johnny? I don't understand.
In other words, the Aramaic Targums, one of the ideas behind them is that Gehenna existed from the creation. So, in other words, their
And
version of
God
hell,
created already that?
yeah,
Oh,
their version of hell already existed. That's what he's kind of saying.
so meaning, so Gehenna, either eternal damnation or physical death, or
Uh,
just temporal, I should say, not eternal damnation.
well, they're talking about what the Targum said, not what is real. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
This could therefore be the thought in the Mishnah, which refers to Psalm 55, verse 24 to 25 above. However, there is nothing in the context of the Mishnah, and more importantly, in Psalms 55, that suggests that eternal damnation is in view. In a third Mishnaic reference, we read, in this regard, did sage say, so long as a man talks too much with a woman, one, he brings trouble on himself. Two, wastes time better spent on studying Torah. And three, end up and air of Gehenna. There is nothing in the context of this passage. Indeed, it seems ridiculous to say that a man who talks too much to his wife faces eternal damnation. Rather, he is less of a man, not a leader in his home. He should be ashamed, and his inheritance is garbage. Okay. To those who have husbands talk too much. Anyway, meaning
Uh,
that
that's why the
what?
husband has to always take out the trash, because otherwise his inheritance would be garbage.
Anyway, that's a joke, right? R.
Yeah.
Judah says, most ass, your ass,
There's your word again.
yeah, your ass. Most ass drivers are evil. Most camel, I already read this. Most camel drivers are decent. Most sailors are saintly. The best among physicians is going to Gehenna, and the best of butchers is a partner of Amalek. While this could be a joke about eternal damnation, there is nothing in the context that requires this. It can just as easy be saying that these poor souls deserve a shameful burial in the valley of Hinnom. Finally, in a fifth citation, we read, and the judgment of the wicked in Gehenna is 12 months, not forever, not eternal. It is
Yes.
not it is not difficult to imagine that the judgment of Gehenna here does refer to what we would call hell. However, if it does, it is the only clear reference to Gehenna as hell from AD 70 to 200. It may only represent the conclusions of the compiler of the Mishnah in AD 200, possibly derived from the Siddhipigrapha, more than 100 years after time of Christ. It is also possible that 12 months of judgment are metaphor for 12 months of sitting in a garbage heap in shame and disgrace. Remember Job. Whatever Gehenna refers to here, it is unlikely that it is the same as the hell of the New Testament, which lasts considerably longer than 12 months. The temporal nature of Gehenna in the rabbinic literature warrants further comment. Rabbinic Judaism, unlike the New Testament, had no concept of eternal and endless torment. For the for the rabbis,
Hi,
Gehenna
MA.
was high ime.
I'm
Where
reading
is
the
that high
comment.
ime?
I'm reading the comment, Janet.
Oh,
Anyway,
high ime.
yeah,
Hi,
rabies. You could say rabies, just don't say rabies.
rabbis. Okay, rabies. Oh, rabbis. Where is
Yeah,
that?
because I mean, most English people will say rabbi, but
Mm.
it looks like
So
it's.
is that plurality of rabbis?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the word
Okay,
in
for rabbis, Gehenna was of limited duration. David Powys, in his exhaustive study of Gehenna in the rabbinic literature, concluded it is therefore not certain that Gehenna, when employed in the early rabbinical literature, consistently or ordinarily denoted unending suffering. The Targum of Isaiah tells us that Gehenna lasts only until until the righteous have seen enough torture. In the Babylonian Talmud, we read, the judgment of the ungodly is for the 10 months. M. Adiot 2:10. My goodness, why there is like that? And Abhoda Sarah says, Gehenna is nothing but a day in which the impious shall be burned. Why do interpret
impious.
impious shall be burned? Why do interpreters extract from the rabbinic materials the references to fire and brimstone and neglect those references which limit its duration and then carry his modified rabbinic view of Gehenna into the New Testament. That's it. The entire evidence for the equation of Gehenna with hell in the Tanaitic literature is based on 5 references of uncertain date, of questionable meaning and derivation, compiled about AD 200. For this reason, the whole program of using these Tanaitic materials to construct a view of pre-AD 70 Judaism's view of Gehenna should be hotly contested. Part of the problem is that we are unsure of the dating of some of these documents, which has been
Hi,
demonstrated.
LHD.
Hi, LSD.
Not LSD, LHD.
Okay, hi. Part of the problem is that we are unsure of the dating of some of these documents, which has been demonstrated to be highly questionable. Hi, Ashley. Oh, that's Ashley?
No, who said it was Ashley?
What
It's
did you say?
LHD.
Oh, if you have something in your thoughts or question, please comments below so that the Lehman Seminary, this is your opportunity to have question to him while I'm reading. you know. So grab the opportunity. So and okay, here I go. Part of the problem is that we are unsure of the dating of some of these documents, which has been demonstrated to be highly questionable. It is rich on subjective grounds, and we are sometimes dealing with margins of error of 200 years. If Evans, oh, this is Dr. Evans. Evans notes the principle.
I don't think it's Tony Evans. It's probably
Uh,
Craig Evans.
okay. Evans notes the principal danger of making use of rabbinic literature are ana, anachronism.
Hmm.
Anachronism. Where did you where am
And
I
misleading
at?
generalization.
Okay.
Yeah,
Citing
see, it's Craig Evans.
oh, okay, Craig Evans. Citing Fitzmyers.
Fitzmeyer.
Oh, sorry. Fitz
He's Catholic. Last time I checked.
Oh, Fitzmyers' criticism of this tendency to use the
Uh,
Mishnah.
LHD say you trying to talk about the situation later. This I can't see because the heart is in the way. Let me move
The
this up.
heart is in the way.
Yeah, there's a heart icon. You trying to talk about the situation later this week in the Discord lounge? Yeah, I mean, I tried to talk about it earlier today. Uh, I go to work tomorrow at 12 noon Central, and but I wake up around 10 Central and I start getting ready for work and everything. But I'm training the new guys, so I'll get free whenever I can, and I'll talk to y'all on voice. But I mean, well, I'll keep that with between us. Nobody else knows what we're talking about. But yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
I don't feel like I said anything wrong in the video I made though. I'll say that much. Okay, Janet, go ahead.
Yeah. So, another question what I'm reading. A Fitzmayer offers a rather strong criticism of E.P. Sanders, who's E.P.
EP
Sanders.
Sanders was the one with this book right here, Paul and the Palestinian Judaism. It's
Mm,
what started leading into the discussions about what's called the new perspectives on Paul. Basically, Sanders was trying to say, and this is what New Perspectives does too. They say, well, we've been misunderstanding the Jews. and they weren't trying to work for salvation. Rather, the things that they were doing were identity markers for being part of the community that you would do to be as covenant members or whatever. And that's just a tip of the iceberg, but we can go in more detail about that later.
Yeah, but before that, I want you to say something about this. I could do it.
Okay, all right. So the dude
And
in the
this one,
comment, the problem is I'm being slimy. All right, so let's go ahead and air it out here. Want to get slimy and grimy? Okay. So this is the thing. Number one, I came in there and I said formally, I need to know if he is willing to debate Dr. Wilkin. I was there in official capacity, as I explained in that video. Y'all said that he had just said that he was not doing any formal debates for 2 years. And I said, I respect that. Okay. But at the same time, I just because I respect that doesn't mean I don't want consistency from Young Don. It was when before Young Don had removed his video content, and when he called himself the Sauce God, you know, I wanted him to be consistent. And you know what? He stepped up and he did those things. Not because of me. I don't know who influenced him on that. The Holy Spirit. Uh he's become more and more consistent throughout time. Even though he is now reformed or at least a 5-pointer, you know, he is getting more and more consistent. And I'm just saying the next step, I tried to expose him. Expose him in what way? Yeah, I respect that he said I'm not willing to debate for 2 years. That's not an exposing. That's saying be consistent. That's holding him accountable. He's the one that is engaged. Look, search the algorithm. Type in free grace, and what is the first hit you see? So what do you mean expose him? He exposed
yeah,
himself when he went after a free grace. You tried to say he's dodging debates. No, what did I say in the video? What did I say that was not correct? We're gonna play the video right now, just so that everybody can have a context.
oh no,
It's a
it's
short
not
little
fair.
video. It's a short little video, but you're gonna get what you're looking for. I
So
was gonna
guys, we
keep
are
it. I
talking
was
about.
gonna keep it quiet, but you know what? I'm gonna campaign it. And right now, as we're talking, there are significant. There's at least one significant member of the Free Grace organizations in the chat, and there's a non-Free Grace person, Lordship, who I've devoted before, who's a doctor, Dr. Larry Helms. So okay, you coming over here trying to be messy in the stream, accusing me of being slimy, is just going to give them opportunity to blow it up more. You know, with friends like you, Young Don don't need enemies.
Yeah,
So,
I think what he means by exposure is what he said, that he don't want to debate 2 years from, in 2 years. So maybe that's the exposure, or you expose about there that Wilkins trying to, not trying, wanted to debate, but
I
he
think what they're
refused.
mad about is those guys overstepped. They didn't have the authority to turn down a debate for Young
Uh,
Don, and yet they said that because of what he said before.
I'm trying to settle the situation, bro. What kind of settlement you wanted? It's not
Yeah,
about what time, what kind. The layman seminary just expressed himself.
instead of the
Uh,
position, if you're not prepared to debate, you're not prepared. If you're not willing to debate a high profile free grace person, or at least have a discussion with them, then you shouldn't be putting out anti free grace content. It should
Young Don,
you gotta be consistent. That's all I'm saying. And you know, I know this is gonna mean I'm gonna get kicked from his server, just like with Gideon. Yeah, that's fine. Y'all drew the line.
Young Don
No,
said,
no, no, no. They're lying. They're lying. I'm telling you right now. I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but Little Parable said that he's not going to debate anyone. I said I repeated it probably about 5 times. Okay, I want you to know I'm here in official capacity, and I wanted you to know whether you're formally declining. He did, so they declined for him. But if he's not declining, then that's fine. We can set it up. And if he needs 6 months to prepare, we can make that happen. Thanks, Joshy. I'll look into that. But you know, I have no problem removing videos. Okay? That's not what they said. Come on, man. I did my best to represent what was being said. That's y'all's fault. Y'all moderators said the wrong thing. You got Young Don in a wreck. I'm not misrepresenting what's being said. If you go back to what I said in that video, here, we're going to play the video.
Yes, please. Play, please. Please.
All right. Check it out. Tell me if you can hear this, Asawako.
Okay. I cannot hear it. Share the sound, please.
I'm sharing it, but you're talking.
Yeah. LHD. They said they told you what Don said about.
It's
Don.
all right. It's all right. I already addressed those.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Work, but I wanted to make this.
Make it loud, please.
It is loud. You can't hear it?
No, the sound in the YouTube thing. Do you think?
Oh, got you. Hey guys, I'm fixing to roll out to work, but I wanted to make this announcement. Maybe I'm jumping the gun on this, but I want you, and what I meant by jumping the gun is because about Dr. Wilkins. Dr. Wilkin. I want you all to know that I was given official capacity by the moderator Standing for Truth YouTube channel, which is Donnie, to contact Young Don or his server and see if we could get a formal debate with him and Dr. Bob Wilkin. What the moderators told me was that because I was like, did y'all bring it up in the class, in the lesson, whatever? And he said, well, he had just said that he's not willing to formally debate for 2 years. Is that true? Have I said anything that's false yet, LHD? Now this is significant because he
this is what he said. Don said he's not debating people yet. Yeah, so in 2 years.
I already said that. I just said for 2 years. How could I know that information if they didn't tell me? Were you not there? All right. That he wants to get his knowledge and his theology up to par. That's my language, up to par. But you see how careful I am, sir. Wherever I'm explaining. Whenever I'm not given a direct quote, I said that is my language when I use the word up to par, interpreting that statement in that way. The reason this is significant is because logically, if you don't feel like that you are able to debate a position, then you should not be putting out content teaching against a position or taking a position. And so what I mean by that is that Young Don recently has come after free grace. Maybe he's had a change of heart. Maybe he's going to drop out on the war on free grace. Maybe he's going to say, maybe I need to chill getting into these theological issues and debates. But my point is that if he's going to continue to put content out there that is against free grace, then he's being inconsistent. Okay? He's being inconsistent because he's saying he's not willing to be prepared to debate. Yet he's prepared to make content videos that he studied. So that's one of two things. Either he views preparing for a debate and what he puts out there not on the same level. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that preparing for a debate is a concentrated study I'm trying to make Young Don look bad publicly because of his personal choice to not debate. I don't care if he doesn't want to debate. That's not the issue. He's still attacking free grace.
That's the
He
issue.
he is
Attacking the
using
free
he
grace.
is using his weight, his influence to attack free grace.
Yeah,
And
he
it's
should not do that.
affected a formal organization such as Grace Evangelical Society, where Bob Wilkin is willing to debate him. You know, that's how high profile this is. This is what comes with being a YouTuber. So it's not about making someone bad publicly. It's challenging them to a same standard. I did the same thing with Jack Smack. I said Jack Smack ain't free grace. There's nothing wrong with holding people to a certain standard.
Yeah, why don't do that? Attacking free grace.
Where you got to study them because he never got academic free grace. He never gave it a chance. And what happened is it's just like that Notorious Big song where he says, soon as they buy that wine, I just creep up from behind and ask them what their name is, what they in here for. You know, basically the idea is Notorious Big is so smooth, he let the other dude that's trying to get with the girl buy him a drink, right? And then he creeps up behind and has the conversation for them. That's what false teachers do. You're a new believer in Christ, and what happens is they swoop in, they seduce you, and they try to, or you can use it in another analogy. When a little kid has a toy, but the other guy's got a toy over there, the kid will make that one drop that toy to get that one. So they'll act like their toy is so cool so that you'll covet it. Regardless, however you say it.
Yeah,
there you go. Look, Chris Morrison said it good. The issue isn't him not debating. Yeah, I respect him if he don't want to debate. If you're a novice, there's things I turn down to debate. I said I'm not prepared to debate that. It's attack of free grace without understanding the issues. Young Dong doesn't have to debate, but if he isn't prepared to debate, he ought not to criticize what he doesn't understand. Absolutely.
Absolutely agreed. Golf side.
I'm gonna have to get my water. All right.
And
Josh, you have to get in the public square and what to say this or that, better be able to defend it and debate it. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah. I think Charles is doing Don a favor. It would give him more publicity. More people would know him by debating one of the most high-profile free grace. Oh,
right. I mean, he debated James White. He's debated Robertson Jennings.
Yeah, right. So free grace, debate Young Don.
And Wilkin put out a video in concern for Young Don.
Yes.
Evaluated him, so it's not an adversarial thing. It's just, look, we want to set people free. Just like Young Don thinks that free grace is wicked, demonic, and all of this stuff and putting people in bondage, and therefore he speaks out. We're saying the same thing about the opposite position.
Yeah, Bob Wilkins is popular in the free grace realm.
There's no S on the Wilkin, just so you know. I do it. I do it too, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. All right. Bob. Here we go. Ready? Okay. Material, study a person's position, study the opponent, and all of that type of stuff. I understand that it's concentrated and you may come with a more refined. You see that lanyard right there? That's Grace Evangelical Society. That's from the 27 regional one. Understanding or articulation of things. I get all that. But at the same time, if you understand that you're underneath the burden, that you need to become teachable and not be a novice, if you understand that you don't want to put something out there in the world that does not accurately represent God, or that may cause your position to be found in disfavor because you did not represent it right, then maybe you should apply the same principle to your other content. Maybe Young Don should just stick to reaction videos and cartoons until he gets his theology correct. But I kind of doubt that's going to happen. Same reason I don't think Gideon is going to back off from what he's doing. Now, the difference with Gideon is Brother Josh is the primary teacher. But you're starting to see slowly but surely Gideon is sharing what he's learning. And I'm not against a person sharing what they're learning, but because he's being faithful to the light that he has. The issue is that these same people, Brother Josh, Young Don, they will not get into a formal debate because they know right now that they're claiming. What's so ironic about this, Mahler of the Truth Cartel was streaming right now on the way home about how Sneeko, the guy that was running with Andrew Tate, that became a Muslim or whatever, and another guy, Uthman, they went in on Gideon and basically was schooling him on the Bible supposedly, and Brother Josh didn't come in to help them out, So it's that's what I'm talking about. Brother Josh could have an opportunity to have a discussion with me, but he used it. They were baiting people in the comments, and then when I responded and made a comment back, they kicked me out of the Discord of the congregation because he wanted an excuse not to have the discussion. That's what it is. These guys don't want to have the discussion. They don't have to have a debate. They can have a discussion. SFT does that as well. We do discussions. We do panels. We do interviews. We do all of that stuff. And people can't say this is clout chasing. SFT's got 20,000, and go look at all those people that have debated on his channel. This is an opportunity to break into other areas. This is like when Tupac is given opportunities to have roles in movies and stuff instead of just being a rapper. Claims, their accusations against Free Grace cannot stand up to scrutiny. And so that's what we're dealing with here. That this war is unfair. These people are lobbing missiles from one side and then get upset whenever we retaliate. When we reply back in a way that wants to hold them accountable. This can't be the way that we're going. This is not democratic YouTube in such a way. No, what this is hits and runs. This is looking for a fight to appease your viewers, but at the same time not actually engaging in the discussions. And I don't think we should go forward in this way. I think that if you're going to put yourself out there as a teacher, and even if it's informal or formal, then you understand that you're going to receive a stricter judgment. You're going to be held accountable to a certain standard. And if you're not willing to engage in this way, then maybe you should not be attacking theological positions that you don't clearly know about. The chances of you knowing our position very well, when you don't even know your own position very well to articulate, I commend you. Anyone out there that wants to develop in their position before they go out and start attacking. But at the same time, I understand that you got to be consistent. And so if you're not willing to debate these issues, then maybe you should not be making teaching videos on these issues. Or maybe you should soften the material that you're making. Maybe you should say something like this: exploring this, or looking into, examining, my journey in this, towards understanding this. But whenever you come out and you say free grace is false, demonic, wrong, and all of this, and you're not expecting us to respond, and you think because you're so big that if we make YouTube videos, you can't hit the radar. Well, guess what? You've gotten the attention already, and they've already responded to one of your videos. Grace Evangelical Society responded to one of your videos in a loving way. And now you're formally declining that invitation to formally debate. And some people may say, well, he's a novice, he's a youngster, people shouldn't be challenging the debate. They tried that when I challenged him to debate. But the thing is, if you're going to put your big boy pants on, then you're going to be held accountable to a big boy pants standard. So my point is, hold yourself to a consistent standard. And if you're not prepared to debate something, then don't make videos where you're attacking in a way wherever other people are not able to respond and let their say go out there. You know, these people out there, he's not the only one, there's others. They say they hate debate, okay? They'll say debate is sinful. They'll say all these types of things. But they do that, and there's other people that have made videos about this recently. Right. They will do that because they're trying to control the narrative. They want their. Yep, you're absolutely right, Ghost Side.
Yeah.
Janet,
it's just about. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You don't want me to talk?
You can talk, but when the video is playing, I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't talk while videos playing.
I know, but I'm hearing the video. And
now, guys, we are debating to each other.
All right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ghost Side. Their one-sided view to be put out there to their audience, because that is their fan base. That is their income. That is the people that they're responsible to. And there's nothing wrong with pastoral dynamics. I'm not saying that. But my point is they're not allowing their views to actually experience an informal peer review nor a formal peer review. Yet this stuff is going viral. It's going everywhere across and generations are being affected. Millennials, right? The Zoomers, Alpha even, you know. So this is serious. And that's what the free grace wars are about. Yeah, it's kind of the idea that some of the issues that have been between GS and FGA and other things like that are finally trickling down to the popular level. I mean, this has been going on for years on Facebook and stuff. But now there's certain YouTube platformers, they're taking it and ran with it. So this is what I'm telling y'all right now. Hold these guys to a standard. If they're saying they're not prepared to formally debate and they're not willing to prepare in that way, yet they want to continue to make content dissing a particular group or organization on a doctrinal statement, and they know it goes viral because they're jacking the algorithm, then hold them to that standard and basically say, you know what? If you're not prepared to debate, you're not prepared to make these videos. You're not qualified. You're not equipped enough. So one of two things got to happen. You either got to step up and formally debate, or you need to step down in your attacks against Christianity. And so that's what I leave with y'all before I go to work. God bless, guys. Hey, Doki. Hey, Nicholas. Look, guys, all we do is we just type in YouTube, right? And I may have to sign out to do it, but I think it will be okay. If I just type in free grace, right?
Share your screen, please.
Oh, it's not letting me show my screen? Okay. Share screen. Window. Okay, which one? It's this one. So look, first thing you see, number one, the free grace doctrine is false, dangerous, and wicked. Now we've responded to this, but there it is right there. Type in free grace and this is what you see. You know, you can get rid of your dreads. You can grow a mustache, and you can have a cowboy hat, and you can move to a compound, and you can have a nice video with no sound in the background except for this lake scenery. But what you're doing is you're attacking free grace. What did you think was going to happen? Look. Here, let's go by most views. View count. Well, some of these are not free grace, but that's just the algorithm. Here, let's do free grace. We could do hashtag free grace, but All right, so this is by views. Let me make sure that filter's still on. No, view count. Look, number one video, 89,000 views, 32 views a minute. And you don't think I'm going to go after him? And you know what? Alan Parr can get it too. He's next, 60,000 views. And then guess what? Dr. Wilkin, number third. So if you're in third place, right? And I know there's different rankings in different areas, in scholarship. We could talk about all of that type of stuff like that. But if you're in third place for the purpose of the algorithm, because of how it operates, why would you think that you won't get challenged? That you won't have a challenger? This is how it is. There's Ornato dealing with it. There's Wilkin again. I probably don't even hit the radar till we get to here. There's Hickson, why I'm no longer free grace. There's Saint AVS dealing with Young Don. There's a couple others that are here. There's James White. There's Gideon. This guy, I challenged him. There's Ruslan. I challenged him. We're going down the line, guys. And I'm doing it two ways. A lot of people are responding to the biggest ones. You know what I'm doing? I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going by upload date. So you come out through free grace, right? I got you on a list, and I'm coming after you. And look, slowly by slowly, I'm going through here. No one's going to watch these videos. I already know that, except for the ones that, God uses or whatever to draw. But slowly but surely, we're going through and we're going to deal with this. So it's not about being slimy. It's about fighting back. Fair. And, speaking of Alan Parr, y'all act like this is something new that I'm doing. Here, look. I have been consistently challenging Young Don from the very beginning. Did Young Don fall into legalism because of this hypothetical argument? And I reached out to him when everybody came out after him. I reached out to him, but I'm a nobody, right? But you can see all of that stuff. There's a video we recently did of that recent one. My challenge to debate Young Don happens here, but still stands. When Young Don made Ruslan consider the implications, you can go through and see all the way that unfolds. So I'm not against Young Don. I'm just for truth and for consistency. And you know what? Look. Even though Alan Parr is on the radar, look. I said I'll debate Alan Parr if I hit his radar, right? That's a little rhyme, right? That was 9 months ago. All of these are dealing with Alan Parr. No one's going to watch him, right? I'm bored. Can Alan Parr beat my chart? Because I'm replying to his videos. So I've already been there and done that. So a lot of people that are jumping on this free grace war stuff, I've already dealt with it. So this ain't nothing new. Taylor, you coming in? Yeah, y'all are tripping. Or maybe I'm the one tripping. But yeah, that's how it is. All right. They want to talk about debate, wondering who's the loser and the winner. Maybe we should go back to talking about Gehenna. That's not hell. That's not where people are going to dwell. At least it wasn't in 70 AD. Or what could I say? Maybe it goes back like when my wife says rabies. I mean, she means to say rabbis or ribeyes, mixing it up with the steaks. I don't give a. Anyway. Janet, you there?
Yeah.
All right. Now that's funny. All right.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about Young Don and his moderators just attacking you without
No.
backing the I mean the previous issue.
No,
Why?
number one, his moderators, I don't think had the authority to decline a debate for him. Number two, they did not have they should not have been talking about what was going on in the Bible study that I wasn't in. They probably did not think that that was sensitive information, and they probably got checked on it now. You know.
Just so sad because they are like so famous and spreading these things, and then when someone responds back, and then they don't.
Yeah. All right, Janet. Can you see the screen?
What happened when young Don gets old? Does he change his name?
Oh, Don.
young, young old Don.
Okay, Janet. Go back to all right. Well, you were here with EP Sanders. We were talking about that. All right, go ahead. Start right here.
Okay, guys. Again, while I'm reading, if you have something in your thoughts, just put that downstairs. Just put that in the comment section, and Charles will answer those things.
When
Okay.
did when did when did free grace come on the scene? John Moore's asking. Well, I would believe it was first century AD. I believe it was biblical, but understood by those terms. Louis Berry Schaefer had a lot of influence. If you're talking about the free grace lordship, then I would put it at around John Stott's time.
Look at John Josie.
Yeah, they're singing. They got a whole Christmas song thing going on there. Charles is
What?
making a list, checking it twice. Gonna respond to the naughty will be nice. Charles is coming to town, and then he says, he's coming to town. How does it say? He's coming to destroy your position if you don't line up. Look down in infamy. I think that's what he's trying to do, like that.
My God.
Yeah, some of them might be mixing some Christmas songs there. All right, Taylor's coming in.
I can come in soon, darling. My goodness. So, just so sad to think about young Don.
Yeah, I know it's nothing personal. It's just that
Yeah, I know. But no, it become personal when it comes to the gospel because salvation is personal. But those people, what's okay, okay, okay.
I have to push the OK because the I can't get the link to pin it. It won't let me pin the link. I don't know why it's doing that.
What? So
I don't know why I can't. It's not giving me a link there.
so where to get the link?
The link is there, but it need to pin it. I was trying to pin it, but it's not letting me pin it.
I
All right.
cannot do that.
Now, I guess you can't. If you should.
But I
All
don't.
right. Okay. All right. Anyway, he can grab the link and get it.
Oh,
I don't know why it's not letting me pin it right now. Can you see that link, Taylor? Okay, Janet. Until he comes in, start reading, please.
don't take it personal, baby, baby,
Yeah.
baby.
So John Moore says, so the free grace position recognizes the lordship of Christ or doesn't recognize? Well, it goes back to the distinction between objective lordship versus subjective lordship. In other words, he's Lord because he's Yahweh. He's the covenant God. He's the creator, right? Objectively. But our response to him, that's the subjective aspect. And we're not saying that one is saved or prove that they're saved or that maintains their salvation by serving him as a master. I'm all for lordship service, but not lordship salvation. and Dr. Helms is making
Sorry.
his claim.
That's a classic line.
Yeah.
Hi, Brother Taylor.
Didn't I just
If
answer
he's
that?
not
though?
Lord, then he's not Savior.
Yeah. Right?
Right, Larry?
The
Right.
Frigus
Yeah.
does not recognize the lordship of Christ. My goodness, how is that? No, that is wrong statement.
Taylor, if you want practice, maybe Dr. Helms will come in here and interact with you, and and you could get some practice. An informal debate. That'd be good, right? You get to interact with a doctor. He interacted with Josh yesterday, King James Josh.
I need a doctor.
You remember that too?
That was so funny. I was chuckled thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, Janet, go ahead. If anybody comes in, just tell me they're back and say that you're backstage in the
Josh.
chat.
I think I got a short on this topic. If he's not on the Lord thing.
Okay, cool.
We could play it real quick.
Is there anything you want to say about the Young Don issue before we go forward?
No, I was just trying to catch up. It's hard to keep up with everything going on, especially when they're in little snippets of your hour-long streams. Here and there because that's how I get caught up. Basically, you keep us informed, but I have to, it's tucked away in the stream. So, but I enjoy, I listen on most of your streams, so I catch
All
up.
right,
but
cool.
No, I don't really have a comment. I just hope that it seems like I'd rather his response be what it was than just ignore, So even if it's kind of conceding that he's not prepared, like you said, and so I just agree with all your points basically, and we'll see how it goes from here.
Yeah. All right. Do I believe in decisional regeneration? Depends what you mean about decision.
Yeah, look up my short on decisionism, Charles.
Yeah, that's I saw you made that. Decisionism is like where you're basically saying, come down to the altar and decide, make a decision for Jesus,
Yeah, it's a straw man.
What John Moore is basically saying, he's a Calvinist. That's my assumption, because what he's saying is that you can't decide to be regenerated. Mental assent and decisional regeneration are not the same thing. I think mental assent is a better term than decisional. Persuasion is probably better than both. What is your soteriological position, John Moore? So, are you okay with reading Dillo, Taylor?
Yeah, I haven't been around too much. What have you guys been doing?
So what we're doing is we're still going through the passages, Matthew 10, and we're doing a lot of the background stuff on Gehenna. So we're in the section about Gehenna. Okay, good. You shared the short.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Click the link from Free Grace Notes, guys, so that you can see what he means by decisional or whatever.
All right, go ahead, Janet. Start reading. Taylor, you just interact as much as you want or whatever you need to say, and we'll go from there, all right?
Yeah, I can read too.
Yeah, go ahead, read. Janet.
Yay! I can make my coffee. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, where are we?
He finds Sanders 2 basic assumptions.
And we're talking about Gehenna?
Yes.
Let me get some water real quick.
Right. So you're a 5-point Calvinist, right, John? All right, you ready?
Yep. He finds Sanders' two basic assumptions in his use of rabbinic materials to be unfounded and says that the whole question of the relevance of rabbinic material for the interpretation of Pauline writings needs serious new assessment. Powys adds, there is no sure ground in this field of inquiry. In spite of this, scholars seem quite flexible in how they utilize Mishnaic literature to substantiate their interpretations of the New Testament. If the Mishnah supports their view, they will cite it as proof. However, if the Mishnah contradicts their position, they will point out that after all, it was written long after the time of Christ, and we do not know for sure if what it said reflects Second Temple Judaism. The attempts to derive the teachings of biblical Judaism pre-AD 70 from the rabbinic literature are fraught with difficulties. After the fall of the temple in AD 70, rabbinic Judaism triumphed over the other Judaisms which had opposing views. These opposing parties were greater in number than the rabbinics. It must be remembered that those who triumph are not known for preserving the viewpoints of their opponents. Tom Holland's analysis of this issue deserves our attention.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about Spider-Man. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. These opposing parties were far from being peripheral groups. They probably had greater numerical support than the rabbinics themselves had. To say that the rabbinic texts represent Judaism is not only presuming that they accurately and faithfully recorded the rabbinical oral tradition, it also ignores the facts of history. Triumphant parties, whether political or religious, do not promote or even preserve the teachings of those whom they have conquered. It is massive presumption to assume that pre-AD 70 Judaism is substantially mirrored in the rabbinic texts. At most, these texts mirror a part of, and certainly not most of, Second Temple Judaism. In other words, it is always the triumphant who write the official account of history, and it is their account. As it would be foolish to say that Lutheranism represented pre-Reformation Christianity, so it would well be off the mark to claim that Rabbinic Judaism represented Second Temple Judaism.
Can a 5-point Calvinist be free grace? Only if they redefine the P as preservation. Yeah. And then they would be sovereign grace.
Like provisionism does. Right?
Yeah, well, provisionism is still lordship
because of the P, though, right?
Yeah.
But don't they say preserve? Don't they use that kind of?
Even if like they God... do, they don't mean it this way because they don't believe that a Christian can apostatize.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Depends on how strong the P is. Yeah, some people have a weak stream and others have a strong stream when it comes to the P. Anyway. Sorry.
Hey, is that appropriate for seminary?
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to piss anybody off. My dad always said to be pissed off is better to be pissed on. Was Ryrie a 5-point Calvinist? No, I think he was a 3-point. Might have been a 4-point, but I think he was a 3-point. All right, go ahead.
Alexander notes that it is unlikely that in the rabbinical sources, the quotations we have are from the rabbis to whom they are ascribed. Time and again, he says, we find them, New Testament scholars, quoting texts from the 3rd, 4th, or 5th centuries AD, or even later, to illustrate Jewish teaching in the 1st century. Stephen Fraud concludes, most of what we know of the lives and teaching of the Mishnaic sages, known as the Tanaim, first 2 centuries AD, has been filtered through the works of the post-Mishnaic Amorim, 3rd through 4th centuries AD in Palestine. The same can be said for the other major rabbinic constructions of the 3rd century, those being the earliest collections of rabbinic scriptural commentary or midrash, the Mekiltas, the Sifra, and the Sifris. While incorporating traditional raw materials with long prehistories, they configure them according to the how do you say that one?
Pedagogical
plans and purposes of those 3rd century documents.
Okay,
what does that mean? What does that word mean?
Teaching. Pedagogy is some teaching. So pedagogy is like your teaching or the methodology you're teaching. Okay. So Golfside says most who hold the L have a strong P. So FG Calvinists tend to be 2 to 4 pointers. Ryrie was 4-point with a very weak P, I think. Yeah. That makes sense. How can you apostatize if you have truly been born from above? Well, think about this. You're born from above, which means you've also been placed in the above. You're seated in the heavenlies in Christ Jesus. So you can never fall from your eternal realm, your eternal position. But that doesn't mean you can't fall in your temporal experience on life on earth. And so nothing in time can reverse what's done in eternity. That's my platitude. That's my cliche that I use. That's what people say. Yeah, that's just a cliche. Okay, well, prove it wrong.
So Charles, you don't believe that he who begun a good work in you will complete it?
I take that passage as referring to just that there's a promise to the Philippians, and I guess by extension all Christians, that God will continue his ministry until he comes back. Because Paul's in prison at that time, and the you, I think, is plural, and he's just telling them, look, the ministry is going to continue on. And then Philippians 2, work out your own salvation. I take that related to the mission offering mentioned in Philippians 4. Applying your faith, in that sense. I don't think it's soteriological.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your pastor's Josh C says his pastor is Tom Kakuza. Okay, cool. Do you listen to Grace Global Radio, Josh C? Lots of people from my seminary there, and I think Tom Kakuza is on there as well. Go ahead.
We therefore have virtually no internal or external direct witnesses to Judaism of Palestine between the years 90 CE and the early 3rd century. If the evidence is so scanty and uncertain, why is it that the majority of biblical scholars have connected the valley of Hinnom with eternal damnation? No doubt the fear of being accursed of heresy has silenced the public comment of many. After all, everyone knows that Gehenna means hell. Are you questioning the doctrine of eternal damnation? For the record, this writer is not. The question is, does the word Gehenna have any relevance to the biblical doctrine of hell? It does not. Probably the Latin Vulgate's use of the word has also been a factor. Also, Charles's influential commentary on the Pseudegraphica of the Old Testament has had enormous impact. Even though there are only 5 direct references to the word Gehenna in the Pseudegraphica, every time Charles sees the word abyss or pit or accursed valley in his commentary, he will say without proof that this refers to Gehenna, his first assumption, and that Gehenna refers to eternal damnation, his second unproven assumption. However, there is no doubt that the main source of the equation of Gehenna with eternal damnation derives from the fact that this equation was often held by the early church fathers and has been the most prominent view of interpreters who followed them. Yet there is no unanimity.
Oh my gosh, I can't even say it.
Anonymity.
Unanimity. I think so. I can't say it right now. It's not unanimous, in other words.
Among the fathers on their view of the afterlife. Some believed in universalism. Some believed that the duration of hell was limited. Apparently, 1,500 years later, Luther thought that non-believers could come to faith in the afterlife.
Whoa.
Like some of their other errors, such as justification by faith plus works, salvation by baptism, the impossibility of a second repentance, confusion about the deity of Christ and the Trinity, uncertainty about the extent of the canon, and denial of eternal security, this became something one does not have to think about. It was the basis for the Catholic ruminations about purgatory and was thus embedded in Christian theology ever since.
Gehenna in the Aramaic Targums.
A second category of rabbinic literature is the Aramaic Targums. As spoken Hebrew declined after the Babylonian captivity, the dominant language in Palestine became Aramaic. It became necessary to provide an Aramaic translation of the Old Testament to be read in the synagogues. However, even though there was a long period of oral tradition, most of these Aramaic translations, called Targums, were compiled long after the New Testament era. Actually, there are paraphrases more than translations. They are paraphrases more than translations, a kind of living Bible of the era. Their goal was to explain the reconstructed Judaism, post AD 135, to the common people. With the possible exception of a few scraps found at Qumran, there were no written Targums available during the New Testament period. While there may be elements in these documents that were contemporaneous with the New Testament, such a case remains always to be made and not to be assumed. Bruce Chilton says, "The myth of the Targums as the Bible of the people has been exploded. It has been suggested that it was upon these paraphrases the Jewish people relied for their understanding of the sacred text, and hence this affected their understanding of the Old Testament in the first century."
I even have said that before. I've even made reference to them using the Targums, but this claim is correct. They don't have any evidence of it from the first century, except a few manuscripts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Now I've interacted with Targums, like on Genesis when I was doing my paper for Intermediate Hebrew 2 on Genesis 15. But I don't put much stock into them. All right, so go ahead.
How does what we're reading, like, remember what Preston's beliefs and the time periods he goes
through?
That stuff?
I alluded to all of this in my debate with David Preston. By the way, we're fixing to do a third debate soon. Yeah, and also Sean Griffin. Right. All of these guys used this Second Temple Judaism stuff, or from the Talmud or whatever, to make these arguments, and it's horrible. It really is.
Dillo's saying there's no evidence to show that.
Yeah, and
that it's
David Preston supposedly read this before debating me, and he says that Dillo's weak on all that, And I got to study all this out, but okay, he says Dillo's weak, so I'll check it out. And I got D.A. Carson's Variegated Nomonism book that goes into all that in more detail. But I think this stuff needs to be examined.
Dr. Larry Helms said there is ample evidence, excuse me, that the Gospel of Matthew was originally written in Aramaic, so no Targums was needed.
Right, and isn't that what you wrote your dissertation on, Dr. Helms? Or you wrote some kind of paper on Aramaic. Let's pull up Dr. Helms' CV real quick. Hold on. Let's see here. Window share. So, Dr. Larry Helms CV. I need to narrow it down to, there it is. I don't know if it's at LinkedIn or academia. Head of Department of Biblical Studies, Charlotte Christian College in Theology. I think it's CV's on here. Let's see.
That was my dissertation. That Dr. Larry said.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Well, so yeah. Let me. Oh no. Liberty? No. I can't remember where I found it. I found it once before. I think it was at the school that you were teaching at. It had all your stuff there. Let me go back. Charlotte, this school right here, I think this is where it's not letting me do it. Well, heck, I'm gonna connect with you. I don't know if he'll add me, but so yeah, it like you said, I'll find it later on. It's in one of my videos because when I was preparing to debate Dr. Helms, I studied his dissertation. I didn't study his dissertation. I studied all the classes that he taught. You know, his contributions in these various areas and everything because I wanted to understand and appreciate him. I did the same thing with Seraphim Hamilton as well. All right, so my point is that Dr. Helms is saying that you didn't need Aramaic targums because he's saying Matthew was originally written in Aramaic. And that's challenging because, you know, I've always made the arguments, and I understand about loan words and things like that, but I've always made the argument that all we have are the Greek manuscripts, you know, and the Aramaic translations came later. So I would have to look into his dissertation and everything, but I could be totally wrong about that. So that's good to know. Are y'all still here and can y'all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, Janet, remove his comment so that we can see the screen better, the words. Okay, go ahead.
While there may be elements in these documents that were contemporaneous with the New Testament, such a case remains always to be made and may not be assumed. Bruce Chilton says, the myth of the Targums as the Bible of the people has been exploded. It has been suggested that it was upon these paraphrases the Jewish people relied for their understanding of the sacred text, and hence this affected their understanding of the Old Testament in the first century. Although a few of these paraphrases seem to be of first century origin, most of them were compiled hundreds of years later, some in the 5th to 9th centuries AD. Nevertheless, there is almost a consensus among contemporary scholars that these documents contain much material that can illuminate the background and word meanings in the New Testament. The Targum of Job is dated between AD 476 and 942, and that of Proverbs is of unknown date. Estimates range from the middle of the 2nd century to the 8th or 9th centuries. But care must also be taken lest the perspective of later materials be accepted uncritically as representative of an earlier period, thus resulting in anachronistic exegesis.
Yeah, that's a typo.
Exegesis.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a typo. Okay. There are clearly readings in the Targums which presuppose events long after the death of Christ. The Aramaic of the Targums is not that of the first century. Furthermore, the Judaism of the first century is not monolithic. Therefore, it's impossible to say that a reading of one Targum represents, quote, normative pre-AD 70 Jewish beliefs. This fact, plus the quality of the translations, has given many scholars pause in how to use them in interpreting the New Testament. If the interpretations found in the Targums represent Old Testament understanding that Jesus accepted, serious problems arise. This is especially true of the many Targumic references to Gehenna. For example, the Masoretic text of the Old Testament in Psalm 68:13 is rendered by the NASB, "When the Almighty scattered the kings there, it was snowing in Zalmon." From this Old Testament passage, the Targum on the Psalms paraphrases, "When she scattered her hand over the sea in prayer, the Almighty humbled the kingdoms, and for her sake he purified Gehenna like the snow. He delivered her from the shadow of death." Targum, Psalm 68:15. In Targum, Psalm 37:20, we are told that the wicked will perish and, quote, "they shall be destroyed in the smoke of Gehenna." The Masoretic text reads, "But the wicked will perish, and the enemies of the Lord will be like the glory of the pastures. They vanish, like smoke they vanish away." The Masoretic text understands this as a temporal judgment, while the Targum, written 400 years after the time of Christ, mistranslates the psalm and uses it to show that Gehenna, which is not even mentioned in the Masoretic text, is eternal. Many other illustrations of this kind of exaggerated exegesis could be cited. The Targum of Isaiah was compiled after AD 70, but no doubt it reflects Rabbinic Judaism from the intertestamental era and possibly first century Palestine. It mentions Gehenna once. The Targum on Isaiah 66:24 reads, "And they shall go forth and look on the bodies of the sinful men who have rebelled against my memra, for their breaths will not die and their fire will not be quenched. And the wicked shall be judged in Gehenna until the righteousness will say concerning them, we have seen enough." The Masoretic text reads, "Then they will go forth and look on the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me, for their worm will not die and their fire will not be quenched, and they will be an abhorrence to all mankind." Wow. Once again, one can see the Targumic exaggeration. The Old Testament simply says they will be an abhorrence to all mankind. From this, the Targum discerns the meaning to be that they will be judged in Gehenna and will be released when the righteous have concluded they have seen enough torture. Can anyone seriously believe that this view of Gehenna influenced Jesus' views on the subject? The Targum also mentions Gehenna in Isaiah 26:19. "For Gehenna has long been prepared in view of their sins. Indeed, the eternal King has made it ready, deepening and widening its dwelling. Fire burns in it as an abundant wood. The memra, word of the Lord, like a mighty stream of brimstone, it burns in it." In this passage, Gehenna is a pit in the earth, and in 33:17, Gehenna is a land on earth. These conceptions have no parallel in the New Testament. The rebellious people face retribution in Gehenna, where the fire burns all the day.
All right, pause for a second. John Morris says, please define what you mean by Lordship Salvation. Well, this is not original with me, but an acronym, COP. Commitment, Obedience, Perseverance. So there's two types. There's Calvinistic Lordship Salvation, which says that you will commit, obey, and persevere because you're elected to, and you're regenerated, and God causes you. Then the Arminian view is that you will commit, obey, persevere because you are working with God to do that. I didn't say lordship is a work. I'm not sure what's going on in the comments, but you're not engaging.
No, they are talking to each other.
Okay, all right. Well, tag me if you want to know my answer. Otherwise, talk amongst yourselves. All right, so go ahead.
Similar creative exegesis can be found in the Targum of Kohelet. Wow, I'm getting a lot of hard words tonight.
Yeah, Kohelet means it's typically translated to preacher. Yeah. It's for ecclesiastics.
Tag Team Janet. I'm just kidding. In Kohelet 6:6, the Targum opines that if one does not occupy himself with the study of Torah, quote, on the day of his death, his soul goes down to Gehenna. The Masoretic text reads, do not all go to the same place, that is, the grave. As an illustration of the tenuous nature of Targumic associations with the New Testament references to the Valley of Hinnom, consider this statement from Bruce Chilton. In much the same way, Jesus in Mark 9:48 links a phrase from Isaiah 66:24 to the idea of punishment in Gehenna, a linkage also attested in the Targum. However, there is little in Isaiah 66:24 which requires that the clauses, quote, their worm will not die, nor will their fire be quenched, refer to eternal damnation. In context, they clearly refer to judgments of a temporal nature. Chilton's logic goes like this. 1. Targumic references to Gehenna are interpretations of
Dr. Helms is asking you a question.
Taylor, are you new to Free Grace? Yeah, relatively. Probably about 2 years. Yeah, former lordship. Yeah.
I noticed that
many 3 years.
I noticed that those people who become Free Grace, most of them are from lordship. Or Calvin or Calvinist. Just saying.
Okay. Chris said, welcome to the party.
Yeah, it's the best party. Amen. Why did you leave lordship?
Yeah.
Well, because I realized it wasn't taught in the Bible. really.
If y'all want to have an interaction, it's not going to hurt anything. I'll even moderate it. I've never moderated before, but I can pretend to be SFT and you know, and an indirect one. I think it went well with Josh last night whenever Dr. Helms came in. You know, Josh was not comfortable towards the end, and I said, okay, that's fine. You know, we could talk about this some other time. It's not a big issue. You know, whenever a person wants to bow out, I don't get mad at somebody wanting to bow out. Heck, there's times whenever I'm overwhelmed and I bow out. So it's not a problem.
Yeah, essentially under lordship, I had no eternal security, and I realized I would never be able to under lordship salvation. And so I needed other interpretations of scriptures that lordship people were using. And so that's when I came across free grace content, and things started clicking really, really well with learning about context and dispensationalism. Basically helped me to see that, you know, the differences between the church in Israel and the experiential category. That's the focus of the New Testament more so than positional, being saved from heaven or hell. So once I saw that, it made a lot of sense. And then I could realize that I can know I'm saved based on, you know, the simple scriptures that I've always read. And yeah, that comforted me even in lordship. Yeah.
If any of y'all come in, just say that you're backstage so that I know to look, because I can't see the screen right now. No,
John Moore said, I don't understand how you can be born from above and not recognize the lordship of Christ.
Yeah, but he didn't tag me in it, so I don't think he's addressing me, because I mentioned the objective versus the subjective lordship.
Oh, okay. So Dr. Larry Holmes for Taylor asking question. Taylor, just a statement.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Down. And Taylor has a YouTube channel also, Free Grace Notes as well.
John says, does that mean you don't have to obey? Well, just depends on what you mean. I mean, I believe that everyone has to obey the command to believe the gospel to go to heaven. So they need eternal life. But as far as the commands for discipleship, no, we don't have to obey those to go to heaven.
Yeah. I want to share my thought just now that it's not about obeying or make Jesus Lord or obeying his, or obeying. For me, if you love someone, you will not. Oh my goodness, I have difficulties in English right now. If I love someone, I don't need obey. I don't want. I didn't obey. Just follow what he wants. For example, we love Jesus, so we follow what he wants, but not mean that we are obeying. We love him. That's the reason why we do things for him, because we love him. So that is not mean that you're making him Lord. You need to obey. So there is a compulsion of how to say this. It's not love, but Charlie, give me a word.
But Janet, I disagree with your distinction. We've thought about that before. Janet don't like the word obey, but I think Janet's talking about motivation. The highest motivation is love.
But we don't have to love God to go to heaven.
Yeah, so Janet has a negative connotation of obligation. And so that's why she says that. But to answer your question, let's see.
Doesn't Bing have grace? Okay. Yeah, he has grace notes.
It's grace notes. Yeah. Yes, he does.
And I didn't know that before I made this.
Yeah.
But I probably would have still kept it because it's not the same, but
Yeah.
it is kind of similar.
All right, go ahead, Taylor. Continue
Okay.
reading.
What is this 1, 2, 3, 4 again, though? What's the
Chilton's logic goes like this.
Okay, number one, Targumic references to Gehenna are interpretations of many Old Testament passages which do not mention the word Gehenna. 2, some of these references may reflect the beliefs of Jews in pre-AD 70 Palestine. 3, Jesus, a product of his age, would possibly accept these interpretations rather than those of his own Bible, the Old Testament. 4, even though Gehenna is not mentioned in Isaiah 66:24, and even though the images refer to temporal judgments on dead bodies, it is interpreted as eternal damnation because that is how the Targums viewed it, and hence were possibly a popular conception in first century Palestine. 5. Thus, Gehenna in the New Testament is most likely a reference to eternal damnation, even though it's never used that way in the Bible Jesus used, that is the Old Testament. Yet his points 2 and certainly 3, 4, and 5 are questionable. If we are to accept the variegated descriptions of Gehenna in the Targums, one would conclude it is on land and in a pit. It was or will be purified white as snow. It is a place of darkness, fire, and brimstone. Its duration is temporary until the righteous have seen enough torture, and it is a place where the bodies, not the immaterial souls of the wicked, will rot with worms and burn. Is it a valid procedure to pull out some aspects of the Targumic depiction, such as fire, darkness, and burning, and ignore the others, and then use those aspects as illuminating details behind the New Testament references to the Valley of Hinnom?
Good night, Chris. And I'll message you later on WhatsApp to talk to you about the upcoming debate. God bless.
Night, Chris. So is he saying, so is Dillo kind of saying that, our translations are bad with reference to Gehenna?
Well, if you take them as hell, he's saying that the Gehenna passages are not referring to hell.
Right, it's the interpretation. Okay.
Yeah.
But is he saying certain words shouldn't have been used in the Bible? Like,
I don't know if he's. I don't know if
words,
he's. I don't
like
know.
fire, darkness. Is this?
No. What he's doing, he's saying, if you study the Targums and look at how Gehenna is described, you'll see that it's a bunch of contradictions. It's purified white as snow. It's a place of darkness. It gives a description of Gehenna, okay? And this is where some people have gotten influence about hell, or purgatory,
Yeah.
That's all he's saying here.
John's still.
Where are you?
If you love me, I'm in the comments.
Oh.
John says, if you love me, you will obey me. And do you not have to love God? No.
Not to get saved.
Not to get saved. You have to believe the gospel. Now,
and loving God
when you understand the gospel and you believe, yeah, you're naturally probably going to love God for that, and you understand what he's done, but that's not a condition. You don't have to have that emotional response to go to heaven. And loving is, it's relational. It's something you build upon. It's a process. So it's an experiential thing. It's part of discipleship.
Yeah.
And that's why it tells us to abide in his love.
I would say love is primarily volitional rather than emotional. But
right, because it's very much tied to things we do and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Volitional, that's a good term. Okay. I'm not saying we shouldn't love God.
Right. It says we love him because he first loved us.
I don't understand Josh's comment.
Obey the gospel if you love him. What is the gospel? This is what we must obey. People like to think the Holy Spirit would do his job, so people like to take his position and compulsively make them. I think his point is that when you believe the gospel, you're obeying the gospel positionally, positional obedience.
Yeah.
But then once you're saved, he's basically saying that it's up to the Holy Spirit to work with you, rather than other people claiming to be Holy Spirit Junior trying to control you or force you or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's his point.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Analysis of these documents and their possible relevance to the New Testament is a vast field of study. Only experts who have devoted years to the task are qualified to comment. This writer is certainly no expert, and hence his observations should be read in that light. But perhaps it is time to bring in outside accountants who are not members of the guild. It does appear, however, that a serious work on these documents from an evangelical perspective, such as Larry Hellier's work on the Second Temple literature, is needed. A perusal of the critical comments on these sources leaves the present writer with the impression that the habitual critical fascination with parallels is at work here. Only with difficulty can one discern a true parallel to some New Testament sayings in their writings. They may be utilized to help us understand possible Jewish interpretations of the Old Testament many centuries after the time of Christ. However, the relevance of those interpretations for understanding the New Testament is often oblique. For Jesus and his followers, the intended meaning of the Old Testament writers is more likely the basis of their understandings. Summary. With eager anticipation that he is on the verge of some new discoveries in his area of biblical studies, Professor Jones sips his morning cup of coffee. As the caffeine begins to awaken his brain in the early morning hour, he opens again to the documents he discovered in the remains of an old church several months ago. The year is AD 4010. Scores of similar documents have been under careful scrutiny by New Testament scholars, attempting to understand the general beliefs of Christians in the 20th century. This newly discovered document refers to God as Jehovah and seems to have been written by someone whose last name begins with Arms, perhaps referring to a man whose last name was Arms, or possibly Armstrong.
Oh no, Armstrongism.
What is particularly striking is that the view of Gehenna in this manuscript seems to correlate well with some other documents written by two men from England, Wenham and Stott. In all three sources, Gehenna is viewed as annihilation, cessation of being, and the place of literal physical destruction. This seems to establish that there was a wide body of Christians in this era from vastly different geographical locales who understood the New Testament to teach that there is no eternal hell, rather only non-existence. No doubt, Professor Jones concluded, this sheds light on the frequent references to Gehenna found in much of the literature of this period. With growing satisfaction over his find, he picks up his pen and begins to write an article for the Biblical Studies Journal entitled The View of 20th Century Christians on Post-Mortem Damnation, Recent Manuscript Evidence. From the standpoint of those of us who live in the 20th century, such an approach would appear ludicrous. This has a number of methodological errors. First, Professor Jones assumed on the basis of a few documents that there was a common view of this subject shared by the majority of writers in the 20th century. In fact, this was not a widespread view, and the document he found was from a non-Christian cult called the Jehovah's Witnesses. Their prolific tract distribution had resulted in a widespread dissemination of their views. He did not fully grasp that there were hundreds of Christian sects during this period, all disagreeing with one another on various issues. Second, instead of interpreting many other writers of this era on the basis of the internal evidence of their own writings and how they understood the New Testament, he interpreted them from the standpoint of what he thought was a widely accepted view of the time. This scenario represents the approach of many New Testament scholars over the past century, with their fascination for all things pseudographical. They often write as if there was a monolithic Judaism from 200 BC to AD 200, even though they know, or at the very least should know, this is not the case. Many Jewish sects were in existence, and to extract a viewpoint from a few of them and conclude this was a shared viewpoint is often very tenuous. But even more serious is the second tendency illustrated in Professor Jones' approach. The Jehovah's Witnesses interpreted the New Testament references to destruction as annihilation of being. Since that was the shared view of the era, it is likely, Professor Jones' contemporaries argued, that this was the view of other 20th century scholars as well. In a similar way, many scholars assume that because Baruch, the Mishnah, or the Sibylline oracles interpreted the Old Testament references to the pit and the valley of Hinnom as references to post-mortem torture, this may be the shared view of Jesus and his contemporaries. In the analogy with the Professor Jones scenario, it is more likely that the majority of the New Testament scholars of the 20th century got their ideas of the meaning of destruction from the New Testament, rather from the New Testament than from the writings of the Jehovah's Witnesses. In a similar way, it's more likely that Jesus would get this interpretation of Hinnom from the Old Testament and not from the speculative, fantastic references of the variegated Judaism of his era. To put this in perspective, recall that there is no reference to Gehenna in any Jewish document predating the time of Christ. The assumption of Moses is a possible exception. In the Mishnah, compiled in 8200, there are 5 references, some of which are capable of being understood in different ways. Moving to the Talmuds in AD 400 to 600, one finds over 200 references to Gehenna, all referring to post-mortem damnation. Does anyone see the development of an idea here? The fact that the rabbis in the Babylonian Talmud exaggerated the Old Testament references into preposterous legends of the intermediate state is hardly relevant to how Jesus would have approached the interpretation of the
Old Testament.
I can't see it because of the comment. In the final analysis, it is only of mild. Sorry, Jay.
Yes, we agree. We agree, Ashley.
I ratted you.
I just want to address Ashley's comments.
I want to read it.
Go ahead, Janet. Address her comment.
This is Ashley said, this is fascinating. This is why you should read this book. The whole book is like this. I want to read it a second time.
Yeah, there's things I get and learn and grasp every time I go through it. And I use it mainly as a reference book.
So you have you read it cover to cover or no?
I've read the Reign of the Servant Kings cover to cover. I've read Final Destiny. I would say the 2012 edition. I read that cover to cover and footnote to footnote. But other versions, no. This is the 4th revised edition. The one that Dillo sent you is the 6th. I think I sent Ashley that one, right? I think she bought the book.
Yeah, I'm reading it. I'm trying to read it cover to cover. It's hilarious though when I get into bed with my wife and she sees me pull out the
gigantic book,
the Destiny book, and try and read it. It's funny. Yeah. I'm only on chapter. I think I'm on 30 now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's good. I want to eventually do some chapter summaries and post them on YouTube.
Oh, that's great.
We can do we'll just do like slides.
Well, he does his own chapter summaries.
Where?
At the end of each chapter. You're reading one right now.
Right.
This is a chapter summary.
I mean like a 10-minute video, something just goes over his points and stuff. But yeah, the summary would be the outline basically.
Yeah, you would use the skeleton. Yeah. And just put enough meat on it for that point in time. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's like a little ad for the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the final analysis, it is only of mild interest what Gehenna means in the intertestamental, Mishnaic, or Targumic literature. All that really matters is the meaning of the Valley of Hinnom in the Old Testament and the New. In the New Testament, the Valley of Hinnom is mentioned 12 times. So we now turn our attention to the New Testament data. I gotta take a break. I need some water.
Okay, Janet, it's your turn. You may get cast into Gehenna.
Okay, before that, I want to address Ashley's comments. My version says revised and updated copyright.
I don't think that's the right one then.
2012.
Yeah, the PowerPoint, the PDF that I sent you, Ashley, from Dillo, I either sent you the 5th revision or the 6th revision. And he did that, 2023, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, December 2023. So you might want to compare it to that PDF.
Actually, you got to look on that same page, and then it'll say revised and updated down like halfway through the page.
Janet has it on her bookshelf too.
And it'll say the date.
Yeah. Not done. So
No, not necessarily, because mine says copyright 2012 too, but then it says the revise and update date of
Yeah.
this one says 12/30/22, but this is the
Oh, we just made her realize there's more. Yeah, he has added more, you know. So here, tell me, this is the fourth revised. We'll come back to this. Chapter 56. Y'all remember that number? Okay. So go to the title page, Final Destiny. See, this says fourth revised edition. Does yours say that?
No.
Does yours say that? Final Destiny, fourth revised edition.
Wait, keep going down. Keep going.
See,
going.
It says 2018, and then this is the fourth revised. See, but this is not the one. Okay, yeah, she's got it. 12/30/22.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you do got the new one then. Okay, yeah. Good. All right, cool. Alrighty.
he said no, but I did find what Taylor was
No, she's
talking
good.
about.
She understands. She's good.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. But yeah, I got the PDF I sent her, so she's got it. And that came from Dillo. Taylor interacts with Dillo. If I ever have any questions for him, I'll ask him. But I feel like I need to master his book before I ask him questions. You know, I've interacted with him in Dr. Dean's class.
Hey Charles, I'm actually gonna have to head out here.
Okay, no problem. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you so
Bye,
much,
Janet.
Brother Taylor. Bye.
Yeah.
God bless.
God bless.
God bless. Go ahead, Asawako.
Okay. So, guys, here we are again. Me turning the reading. Did you understand my English? Okay, the conclusion reached in the preceding chapters have enormous implications for our understanding of the Gehenna references in the New Testament. The valley of Hinnom in the Old Testament never refers to hell. When one turns to extra biblical materials, we found that there is no mention of it in any document predating the time of Christ in which Gehenna is equated with final damnation. Therefore, the common assumption that Palestine was saturated with these fantasies at the time of Christ's ministry, and that this fable informed his understanding and that of his hearers in regard to Gehenna is without basis. Significantly, this fact eliminates a difficulty which has perplexed biblical scholars. In several places in the gospel, believers, saved people, are told that if they want to avoid damnation, they must do good works, or at least avoid doing bad ones. Since Jesus said that no believer will ever lose his eternal salvation, one must wonder, what is the meaning of these warnings? Would Jesus say in one place that believers can never lose their eternal salvation, stated in John 6:39, John 10:27-29, and in another warn them that they might? Would he teach them that escape from the lake of fire was by means of works instead of by faith alone, as he taught elsewhere? Consider Matthew 10:28 in this regard.
That's where we're at. Okay, go ahead, Asawako.
Consider Matthew 10:28 in this regard.
It took us 3 videos, but we're here.
Yeah.
That was all background.
Yeah, background. And do not fear those who kill the body but are unable to kill the soul. but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Matthew 10:28. The discourse containing this verse concludes with the words, when Jesus had finished giving his instructions to his 12 disciples. Matthew 11, verse 1. This phrase indicates that the discourse was directed towards those who were already saved. Yet, Matthew 10:28 seems to warn these generated people of the danger of eternal damnation. This conundrum, conun, cano- conundrum emerges from the incorrect interpretation that Gehenna refers to the lake of fire. This chapter will argue that being cast into Gehenna does not refer to final damnation. The normal meaning that would be understood by a first-generation Palestinian listener is that Jesus was speaking of a burning garbage dump in the valley of Hinnom. However, Jesus used the word as a metaphor.
Damn
What?
it. You have a fan. You have a fan.
I am a fan. I think
Yeah.
pseudonym. Oh no.
No, it's not pseudonym.
Oh,
Uh,
I may bias.
I may be biased.
I
He
may
said,
be biased, but I like a woman's voice over a man's. Oh my, Taylor, I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Joycey. This is much better now. You have a nice voice with your accent and all. I am now engaged now. Thank you so much. Oh, that's why you have. Uh, thank you so much. And sis Ashley said, when you guys get through it, I'll come on and read. What's that? Chitwood, Chitwood,
yes, yes, that would be
and
great.
maybe Holland Worth. It
Maybe
won't
it
take
won't take too long.
long.
Maybe
Maybe
tomorrow,
to.
the next day.
What's what's that mean?
Those are the names of the
People.
books. Yeah,
Ah.
the scholars that she likes.
Oh. Okay. 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 So where am I now? Okay. However, Jesus used the word as a metaphor for a looming one for a looming national catastrophe, two for a negative assessment of the believer's life. Third or three, Jesus' brother James uses it as a metaphor for the corruption in the heart of man, a judgment of Gehenna. The judgment of Gehenna. The Greek word Gehenna occurs 12 times in the New Testament. However, several of them are in parallel passages. All but one occurs in the Gospel from the lips of Jesus. When all instances are considered, we see that Jesus used the word 9 times as a warning to believers. Matthew 5:22, 29, 30, Matthew 10:28, 18:9, Mark 9:48. Guys, you can read. And James used it once. James 3:6. Otherwise, Jesus used the word 2 times, excuse me, in addressing the non-believing Pharisees, Matthew 23, verse 15 and 33. It is extremely doubtful that Jesus would have warned his believing disciples of a fate, namely damnation, that he knew would never befall them. Gehenna is never used by Paul, nor it is found in the Gospel of John or the book of Acts. It is used once in James 3:6, 3 verse 6, but found in no other New Testament epistle. While many commentaries states that Gehenna refers to damnation, many scholars have raised doubts about it. About this. Regarding those who believe that Gehenna refers to an endless damnation in the afterlife, over 100 years ago, LFW Andrews said, they relied upon the supposed figurative meaning of this very word to prove their doctrine. Yet they were compelled to acknowledge that it that in its primary and outward import, it had no other signification than the Valley of Hinnom, in that it ever became an emblem of torment in a future world is mere conjecture, without a particle of proof to sustain the position. In its outward and primary sense, Gehenna related to that dreadful doom of being burned alive in the valley of Hinnom. Although the vast majority of commentaries assume that Gehenna refers to eternal damnation, many in the evangelical community do not hold this view and agree with Andrew's opinion above. Adam Clarke, for example, argues that the judgments of Gehenna in Matthew 5:22, 29, and 33 refers to being burned alive. A.B. Bruce agrees, saying that being cast into Gehenna in Matthew 5:29 means that he deserves to be burned alive in the valley of Hinnom. He compares it with the temporal judgment that comes on those who hurt Jesus' little one. I'm sorry. Judgment that comes on those who hurt Christ's little ones. Matthew 18:6. A similar conclusion is echoed by W. F. Albright and C.S. Mann, who say the one who is cast into Gehenna is one who merits a fiery death. Fiery death. Dallas
Fiery.
Willard, huh? Fiery?
Fiery.
Fiery. Sorry, guys. Dallas Willard argues that the reference is to being cast into a garbage dump. F.W. Farrar says that the primary significance is to an earthly Jewish punishment, a disgraceful death by being burned alive and tossed into the garbage of the valley of Hinnom. My goodness. Can you figure that out? Can you picture that out? So, ew. An older Jewish commentary by Rabbi Kimchi says that Gehenna is a repugnant place, repugnant, into which filth and cadavers are thrown, and in which fires perpetually burn into order. What I said? I'm sorry, guys. Gehenna is a pregnant place into which filth and cadavers.
Cadavers. This is a dead body.
Okay, cadavers are thrown, and in which fires perpetually burned in order to consume the filth and bones, on which account, by analogy, the judgment of the wicked is called Gehenna. According to Farrar, the most severe sentence in this passage, Matthew 5:22, being cast into Gehenna, is the Jewish sentence which ordered the body ordered the body to be burnt and then flung forth and consumed in the valley of Hinnom. Death by burning was a recognized punishment in the law. Leviticus 20:14. Oh my goodness. That was their punishment, death sentence, and had a special horror to the Jewish mind on the ground that they attach intense importance to burial rites. In ancient Israel, burial was considered extremely important. Solomon says a stillborn child was better off than a man who has no burial. In Hebrew, kibura, grave or burial. Ecclesiastes 6:3. Johnson notes that non-burial was a sign of particular
Opprobrium.
opprobrium, something that brings disgrace. Okay, opprobrium. In Israel and throughout the ancient world, even a criminal executed and hung on a tree was to be burned the same day.
Buried the same day.
What did I say?
Burned.
Oh,
You burned
buried the same day.
you burned them instead of buried them.
Oh, okay. Buried the same day. In Matthew 5:22, Jesus warns that if this kind of arrogance and disrespectful attitude towards others continues, calling one a fool, it can certainly result in a negative assessment of the believer's life. But since the addresses here are saved people, the disciples, there is no possibility that the outcome would be eternal damnation. Instead of viewing this as eternal damnation, Willard, in his exposition of the Sermon on the Mount, the Divine Conspiracy, got it right when he observed that the judgment contemplated by this phrase was consigning the offender to the smoldering garbage dump of human existence, Gehenna. Such a fate, either before or after death, is a metaphor for a shameful life. Mm. If this if these writers are correct, the judgment of Gehenna has no immediate eschatological implication at all. Instead, it is a temporal sentence of execution exercised by a Jewish court for various crimes against Yahweh. Specifically, it refers either to being cast into the fires of the valley of Hinnom and being burned alive, or having one's corpse cast there after death. The latter signifies an ignominious and shameful death. The latter signifies an ignominious and shameful death. This explanation seems to work well for the two references applied to believers in Matthew 5:22 and 29, and possibly in Matthew 18, verse 8 and 9. However, it faces difficulties in Luke 12:54, where Jesus warns his believing disciples that they might face the judgment of Gehenna after physical death. That is, after these things. Greek matatauta. Matatauta. So is that means that Charlie, that Jesus warning them that if they are, what's that, physical death or spiritual death? That he said that the Jews, the after physical death, that is
Sure. So you can't just say Gehenna refers to physical death because Jesus is talking about after these things. So it's after physical death.
yeah. So wait. I'm not finished that issue. However, it faces difficulties in Luke 12:54, where Jesus warns his believing disciples that they might face the judgment of Gehenna after physical death. That is after these things. Okay. Even granting that the judgment of the eternal fire of Gehenna refers to being burned alive or having one's corpse cast into the valley of Hinnom, such a judgment upon a carnal believer obviously has implications for a negative assessment on one's life at the judgment seat of Christ. What that means, Charlie? Hello?
That even if it means that you physically died in temporal judgment, it still has you still got to experience the judgment seat of Christ.
So if you are not good on this earth, then you will be thrown out of darkness or not
We're not
serving with him.
we're not talking about outer darkness right now. That's a different topic. It's related, but it's a different topic.
Okay. Once we eliminate the fanciful idea that Gehenna refers for final damnation, we have a key to unlock the meaning of many perplexing passages in the New Testament that have often defied rational interpretation. In the following discussion, we will argue that the New Testament writers use this will-known refuse heap as a metaphor for three things. One, the coming national catastrophe facing the nation. Two, a negative assessment of a carnal believer's life. And three, the rotten sin nature of man. Only one point links Gehenna with an earthly temporal punishment. Gehenna and the judgment of AD 70, Matthew 23:33. Uh, I'm asking what time we're going to land the plane.
You can land the plane right now if you want.
Yeah, because there is no comment from anybody. So, yeah, we already have 2 hours. So I need to do something here, painting
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
So
All right.
can I say a prayer request here,
Yes.
Charlie? I'm going to paint I have this downstairs, my house downstairs. There's nobody there, so I'm going to paint the rooms, and I wanted to have anybody to a bed spacer rent or renting the room. So I'm going to paint those rooms, and please pray that God will send people or students, send students to have a bed spacer. It's specifically ladies because I don't want boys in my house. So I want just ladies, students, because we are near in the schools, many schools around in my place. So there is many students that came from the island of the island. I am in the island place, but my island is have also the island of another islands. There's many island in my island. So those students come over here in my place because this is the main island in those islands, in small island. Then they have renting, they are going to rent or bid spacer. So I please pray for me that God send students over here so that financially I be able to do things. For example, I have many things to do. I pray that God will, for God's will, it will be. I lost my English, Charlie, but I think the viewers knows or got what my message is. So will you summarize my message to them, Charlie, so that they can know?
Janet is asking y'all for prayer that God will send people that she can rent the bottom part of her house to, preferably college girls or students, so that she can rent to them, and that way that will help be a source of income so that she can take care of some things that she's doing, that she's working on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, please pray for that's my prayer request. So I want to read Josh C comments. I do like to tell men to remember that yes, the first woman came from the first man, but every woman and man since including the Lord Jesus came from a woman. Deserve I don't understand. Will you tell Charlie? I don't understand.
But every woman and man since, including the Lord Jesus, came from a woman. So all men came from a woman. Yeah, this is Tupac. He said, "We came from a woman, got our name for a woman." How did he say it? Let's see.
Wait a
Hey,
minute.
SFT's here.
Wait a minute. Why SFT come over here at last 2 minutes? It seems like you want to dribble and want to shoot and then say bye-bye, I hope that you are
Janet's
here.
saying that you show up at the end of the game and you're going to take your ball and go home.
Why is that?
Just so you
Why?
said you played.
Ex- Oh no, but he just want to drop the ball. I excited for the March 2 and soteriology double heater event. Who is this? You and
Me
the
and Chris Morrison are going to debate Turton Fan and Dan Chapa.
oh, okay, but I
And
can't.
I got two other debates before that, I think. I don't know. I got to put all that stuff on my calendar.
Oh, okay, but I really don't understand if SFT just come 2 minutes. No, no, less
What
than.
SFT? Do you want to come in and be devil's advocate, and you be the conditionalist,
Wife just went
and
to
let
bed.
and
Now I
let
can be
Janet
online
debate
again.
you? You
No,
want
no,
you want
I surrender. I
no just
surrender.
for a little bit. SFT,
No,
come
no.
in and be the
Well, you
conditionalist, and so Janet can get
condition.
some practice.
Hello. I just sent the prayer request and I need to do something. If I accept your
Maybe
asking,
just 30 minutes of
maybe in the
sparring.
future. Sir, it's already 2 o'clock.
Okay. All right. So land the plane, Janet.
Yeah. And just want to read all of this. What? Well. And excited for, okay, and got
Yeah.
got
That's the Tupac lyric. Let's see.
oh,
Keep your head up.
okay. So
He
standing for
says,
free, standing for free. You hear that?
standing for free. He says, he
Standing
says,
for what?
let's see.
Who was
Says,
that? Josie?
I can't say all of this. Yeah, the lyric says, uh, let's see.
I don't
Uh,
like to tell men to remember that. Is that the one?
Here it is. And since we all came from a woman, got a name from a woman, and our game from a woman, I wonder why we take our woman, our woman, do we hate our woman? I think it's time to kill for our women. I'm saying woman, but it's women.
Where is
Women.
that?
Time to heal our women, be real to our women. And if we don't, well, we have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one. So would the real men get up? I know you're fed up, ladies, but keep your head
Where
up.
did you get that?
That's Tupac, Janet. That's
Uh,
Tupac. Keep your head up. Some say
uh,
that he's making an anti-abortion statement there, but I'm not sure about the when and where to create one. But that was the reference that Josh C was making reference to whenever he mentioned that about
okay, got it.
women.
Mm. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much, Sis Ashley, and all of you praying for me about this. And, yeah, so that's it. And if you like this, this video, share this to others, and please keep this ministry in prayer. And
And now look at Mark Bailey. Mark Bailey is there too.
yeah, maybe he is here from the start and just listening. We don't know.
Oh yeah, maybe
They just
so.
don't comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brother Mark. Thank you so much, Sis Ashley.
God bless,
And
guys.
God bless everyone. Good night.